Wait, we're live already?
Let me see.
It can't be that quick. This is awesome. Yes. Welcome to Jack Kelly LinkedIn Live. Good afternoon. Good morning. I don't know. What time is it? 11? So that's kind of morning still, depending on where you are. Hey, I have some good news to talk about. Going into the weekend, there's enough negativity out there. There's enough, anger, angst, agita, hostility. It's not me. I'm looking for the bright side of things. And today I have two different things to talk about. Now, Christine, which should I talk about first? What do you think?
Let's talk about the New York pay transparency law.
Okay. So here in New York City, there's a new law that was passed, and it doesn't go into effect till April. It's a Salary Transparency Act. And what it is, anybody who's been looking for a job, and the folks here on LinkedIn, I'm sure you're very familiar with this. You go and you want to interview, you see this job that you like, and what's missing? The compensation. So that, you look at it, you're like, hey, I like the company. It's a great company. The job is perfect. I have the background. But then how much are you going to pay me? So you send your resume anyway. Hope for the best. Maybe have a first interview with an HR person. Perhaps it's a phone interview or a quick Zoom call. And you kind of bring up, hey, can you tell me how much is it paying? What's going on? And then usually they say, well, we'll circle back to you on that. And then you're like, wait, what do you circle back to me to that? Well, maybe we'll take it offline later. What do you mean take it offline later? How much are you paying? Well, how much are you looking for, Jack? Well, can you tell me how much it is? And then I can tell you, because I don't know anything except the job description. So how am I supposed to tell? Well, what would you want? And you go through that song and dance, and it's ridiculous. So then you say, okay, I really want the job. I really like the company. So I'm going to go through with it. Now, anybody who's been interviewing lately, it's not just one interview. It's 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, no exaggeration. And then you don't hear in between interviews. You don't hear, hey, Jack, good job. Here's some positive feedback, or here's some constructive advice. Nope, you don't get that. A lot of times you get ghosted, or you don't get any feedback. They set you up for a call or a meeting, and then it's canceled. And so you go through this whole process that could go 3, 6 months. And at the end, they're saying, Jack, we're excited to give you an offer. We're really happy. We want you to come aboard. And we're going to give you $100,000. And then I'm the candidate. And I'm like, wait, I'm making twice that. Wait, what's going on here? And then you realize, oh my goodness, I just spent 3 months, 4 months interviewing with all these people, and the comp, even though it said it was like a senior vice president, they said, 20 years of experience, all this, they're paying it maybe at an AVP level. So you wasted all that time, all that energy. You had all the nerves for each time you're going for an interview for nothing. So to circle back to the new law. So the new law basically says you have to have the salary range on the job description. So now, number one, that's pretty good, because then with this, this example I gave is that, okay, if I go in and they say the salary is from 100 to 150, okay, I kind of get what it is, and I'll know whether to apply or not. So far, so good, right? I think what the challenge is, so number one, let's just take a positive of it. So I think by knowing the salaries, I want to give credit where credit is due. When you know the salary, then you know what? It makes it much easier, because then you can make an intelligent decision. You could say, okay, it's 100 to 150. And this is what's going to happen, by the way. You're going to find these big, wide ranges. Trust me on this. And when you see it, you could go, damn it, that's what Jack was saying. Because they really rather not give the salaries. They rather play a game. So what's going to happen, you'll probably get these big variances. You have like 80,000 to 250,000. And then they could say, well, I'm adhering to the law. Well, kind of, but you're playing a game here. So be prepared. You're probably going to get that. But even if you get that, at least you know, okay, the bottom is 90, the top is 200 and a quarter. all right, maybe I want the 200 a quarter, maybe I want whatever, but you going in with your eyes open. Because up until now, you don't know. You're completely in the dark. And now that we're talking about, think about it, we're talking about salary disclosure on ads. Why was this never a thing before? How silly is that? How ridiculous is that? Now, what I want you to be prepared, though, is this. Even though it's great, because now it levels the playing field, you know how much they're paying, you can make an intelligent decision whether to go and move on. There's a couple of quirks involved. One is this: if you have a big range, you're not sure where you're going to fit in. So once again, you're going through it. So I would suggest you speak to the HR person, the interviewer, the hiring manager, and try to quantify it a little bit more. I know the range is from 90 to 150. Could we get a little bit more clarity? Is it more for the 150, more for the 90? So this way you don't waste your time. Also, I don't know if the new law talks about bonuses, stock options, benefits, and other remuneration. So you want to also check on that too, because sometimes companies could play games. They could give you, the salary might be better than you anticipated, but then you realize the bonus is like nothing or very lackluster. Maybe the benefits are horrible. Maybe your out-of-pocket expenses are ridiculous. So you want to kind of check all in. Here's another thing you have to be aware of. When somebody, I know this from doing this 25 years of recruiting, is if you get a range, most people anchor to the high number because they feel, oh, I deserve it. If it's going to 200, I deserve the 200. Now, maybe you do, maybe you don't. I'm not, you don't know. But it could be a challenge for the company and for the job seeker, because if you anchor to that higher number and you really don't have the experience, then you're going to kind of complain to the company, maybe even complain to regulatory agencies, because this is a law now. You say, wait a minute, they gave this range, but they're not giving me what I want. So we're going to see some unintended consequences of this. Another unintended consequence is this. There's something, have you ever heard this? The loyalty discount. The loyalty discount. That's kind of a term recruiters use, or at least this recruiter uses, is that if you're with a company, let's say you're with a large company and you've been there for 20 years, when you're getting your increases, you're getting maybe a 1-2% increase. But then if you have a job hopper who every 2 years is moving and getting a 10, 15, 20% each jump, you may have someone who's much younger, much less experienced, making more than somebody at the company. Now, when they put out the job description is going to say, hey, here's the range. And that long-term employee is going to have a heart attack. They're going to be like, what? That's what you're paying? I'm making half of that, and I've been doing this for 20 years. What's up? So I think another unintended consequence is that slowly but surely, and I don't know if the law meant to do this or this is just an outgrowth, that you're going to start thinking, let's figure out how much we were all paid around here, because this doesn't seem fair. So I think in a backhanded move, by having the salaries on the job descriptions, it's then going to make people realize how much they're paying for a job at the company and think, I'm not getting paid that well. And speak to their manager and boss and say, wait, this is not fair, which could kind of then create another issue. Is it because you're a woman? Is it because you're a person of color? Is it because fill in the blank? So even though I started out saying it's a very positive, and I think it still is positive, because I think even with these other issues, we're net ahead because we've opened the conversation to disclosure, to transparency. And whenever you have transparency, even if it's going to be uncomfortable, at least we know, and then you can operate from there. Because maybe best case situation is that when people see those numbers on the job descriptions, they go to their boss and say, hey, let's make changes. And in an era where we have a great resignation and we have a war for talent, companies might have to come back and say, you know what, you're right. We have to adjust it and we have to bring it higher to be commensurate with this new area we're in. Particularly right now with inflation. I think today they were saying what? Mike, Christine, did you see it was like 7%, 7.5%, something like that?
Yeah,
Something crazy.
something like that. Mm-hmm.
So you got to bake that into the cake too and say, wait, thank you for the raise, but you gave me a 2% raise and inflation is 7.5%. Now, I'm not a mathematician, but I think 2% is way less than 7%. So I didn't get a raise. I'm actually basically earning less. So that's another thing you want to, when you're speaking to your boss, that's another thing you want to keep in mind. Yeah. Will inflation keep going? I don't know. I'm not smart enough to figure that out, but you got to figure out, hey, if that's there, it's something you probably want to talk about. Chris, Mike, any other things that I didn't mention that? What do you think? Is that good so far?
Yeah, I was going to ask if you think that the pay transparency law will lend to the Great Resignation or alleviate it.
A great question. I think both, because I could foresee this. Let's say you have Widget Company International, and then all of a sudden they, everyone's snoopy. You know how like we all look at, realtor.com to look at our neighbors when they're selling the house and what it looks like and how much they're selling it. People look at jobs. Sometimes they're not looking. They want to see like how much does it pay. They want to know. So if you start seeing, and people, now that they know they have to disclose it, you're going to check it out. If nothing else, just like financial porn, you want to see what people are earning. And if you realize that you're in a place, because you're not only looking at where you work, you're going to look at the salaries of your competitors, so that if you see your competitor is paying way more, you're going to say, hey, what am I out of my mind? Why am I staying where I am? I'm going to go to my competitor, 123 Widget Company. Like, why am I going to stay here? Or as I mentioned earlier, if let's say you're internal and you see they're paying more for new people coming in than the people who've been there, loyal people for 20 years, you're going to say, hell with this. I'm going to look for something different. So yeah, Chris, I think you're going to see a lot of that. Or I bet you will have some small group that actually is paid more, and they'll be like, oh, all right, I'm just going to keep quiet, keep under the radar. I'm seeing what they're paying these new people. I'm getting much more.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to keep my head down. I don't want to get any attention. I'm just going to cash my check and be happy. But I think, wow, it could. How wild is that? With my Chrissy, like you have where I start out the conversation, as I'm talking, I'm thinking it through. Something that seems so good, but now when you start unraveling it, there's a lot of issues involved. There's a lot of stuff that could kind of play out that I don't think the people who came up with this law were accounting on.
Yes, I agree. I think it's definitely going to lend to the Great Resignation. Clearly, people at the current firm where they're looking at their similar jobs and realizing the loyalty discount people, they're going to say, wait a minute, I do the same work or even more, and now you're going to hire someone with less experience and pay more. That's going to create all kinds of problems. Right. And then, Jack, you brought up the last point. They'll also look at other firms' job postings and realize for the same job, they're going to pay more there. Perhaps they may say they'll pay less, and that'll cause some retention. But all in all, it's going to be a lot of grumblings, if we ever get back to the office, water cooler talk.
Yeah.
And HR, I'm sure, is not happy about this.
Now that they have a lot of work to do, because why wouldn't somebody take a screenshot of a LinkedIn posting, an Indeed.com posting where it's saying, hey, here's what they're paying for the same exact role you're doing, take a screenshot and say, hey, I'm not making this up. Look, this is what they're paying. And you're paying me, half of that. What's up? So it's going to be interesting. It's definitely going to be interesting.
And I wonder if the pay transparency law will make it harder to initially find candidates and for companies to build their pipeline, because a lot of times people will apply, they'll go through the process not knowing the comp, then they'll get to the offer stage and it's either less than what they want, or as a recruiting firm, sometimes we will negotiate for pay that's higher than what it is. But if the pay transparency is listed and it's out there, a candidate might not apply for that job because it's like, well, no, I want more than that. But then they can lose out on a great candidate just because of the pay transparency. It's yeah.
It's interesting. So you're saying, so someone might look at it and say, hey, I want more, but they say they gave the upper limit, so I'm not going to apply. Is that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because how many times have we, gotten to the offer stage and then a company lowballs the offer, and then you negotiate for higher, and sometimes it's initially more than what they wanted to pay, and they're like a little uncomfortable paying it, but they pay because they see the quality of the candidate. But now the candidates might be turned off automatically seeing it, so they won't build their pipeline, and they'll have less candidates applying for the job.
Christine, do you think it's a difference between men and women? Because they say that women will get paid less because they don't negotiate as much. Do you think women more than men might say, okay, they give the parameters, I want more, so I'm just going to walk away, where a guy might be like, nah, I'm going to try anyway. I'm going to push it, see if I could see if I could get more money. What do you think?
I definitely think so. And when I was saying it, I thought of that because we've spoken about that in the past, where like we
You just
see
wanted to be
things
polite, right?
as like black and white. But then I wonder if it is listed, if it's like if that's like a hard stop, like they won't go more than that amount. Because then you waste people's time like going through the process, and then the whole time you wanted more than the compensation that was initially disclosed.
No, you see, I'm sorry. You see, that's interesting. I don't think that. I haven't found that in candidates that I've negotiated for. I think I've found women to be as much, as hard negotiators, sometimes harder negotiators than men. Maybe that's just in compliance or the types of roles, but across the board, I say they are equally as tough negotiators and want what they want for salary. Just what I've seen.
So why do you think that you have the disconnect where, they'll say, hey, they don't negotiate, but you see firsthand they do? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I really don't. Maybe because just within compliance, a lot of these people are very bright, smart, depending upon what areas in compliance they do. So I think they've gone to good schools. They've sort of made their way up against being a woman from early on anyway, so that they've learned to play the business game fast and furiously, yet still professionally, but as much as the men do. At least that's my own personal experience.
I can understand that, because I've seen personally as well, is that because they feel, hey, I'm going to get lowballed. So they go in, no fear, like, okay, you're offering me 100, BS, I'm going for 150, because they feel if I don't, I'm selling myself short, and then everyone's going to say, hey, did you negotiate? And you don't want to be the one, well, no, well, you have to, they're going to give you less. So I think it almost inspires them to what I've noticed, to kind of do it, because they feel, all right, if I'm going to I know I'm going into this and I feel I'm going to get cheated. So whatever number they say, I'm going to just pursue, I'm going to believe that it's going to be a low number, and I'm going to go for more.
Yeah, you have to advocate for yourself as a woman, because no one else will do it for you.
And negotiation, it's awkward. It's awkward to ask, but it's one of those things you have to do. You have to try. And let me give you a little kind of inside baseball tip. If let's say you want 100,000 as a salary, you don't ask for 100,000. You ask for like 120,000, because if you say 100, in their mind, the hiring manager, the HR person, the talent acquisition, you say 100, they're thinking, oh, you really don't want 100. You're throwing it out. You'll probably take 80. So then they'll come back and say, okay, we'll make you an offer of 75, thinking you want 80. And then you're like, wait, no, that's not right. So you want to kind of bring it up more. You want to give a premium, so that if you're asking for 125 and they end up giving you to, like 110 or so, that's kind of, okay, that's a little bit more than you wanted. So you want that extra cushion to negotiate. That's just kind of a little sidebar.
Mike Conley actually had a great point. He thinks that there will be an increase in non-compete rules now with this new law.
Wait, let me just digest that for a second. So as a reaction, whoa, mind blown. So wait. So as a reaction, knowing, like you said, Christine, that it might inspire more people to join the Great Resignation, they'll try to lock up people in their contracts that they can't go to a competitor, and just force them to stay. Is that it?
Didn't we see that with that healthcare company? I don't know if it was a hospital, where everyone left for the other company, and then a judge ruled that they couldn't be employed by that new place because of like a a non-compete that
Wow.
wasn't even in place in the first place.
Wow. Mike, man, that's like serious thinking there. That's scary. I didn't even, isn't it interesting? Once you kind of delve into it, it's like peeling back an onion. There's just so many layers
Right.
you have to think about. That that never even occurred to me. Wow.
Unforeseen repercussions.
Yeah, right. Right. Well, now I'm scared because the number two thing I was going to talk about today, I'm really happy and positive about it. But I hope we don't find. Okay, let's see if hopefully there are no unintended consequences of what's next. So I'm not sure if you've seen this, but in the Financial Times, Dr. Anthony Fauci basically said we're past, what was the exact terms, Mike, Chris? Like we're past the worst part of the pandemic, or it was more of a,
It was like full-blown pandemic.
yes. Yeah. So we're past a full-blown pandemic. And then I've noticed New York, New Jersey, Rhode Island, Illinois, California, and a whole bunch of other states started saying, hey, we're gonna, you don't have to wear masks as much anymore and don't worry about it. And then in Europe, Sweden, Denmark, England's in Europe, right? Yeah, England, and a whole bunch of other countries, same thing. So it seems that maybe we're close to the end of this. Now, maybe it's politics where they're saying, hey, people getting irritated with the mask, let's get them. But I don't know. I mean, Christine, Mike, what do you say when you see, what was it? It's like New York, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Illinois, Connecticut, California, New Jersey. You have Denmark, Norway, Sweden, England, and a bunch of others. And all within like the last couple of weeks. I mean, is that a sign that they're kind of telling us, they're signaling where we're at the end? What do you think?
I think so, because it was also a couple weeks ago. It was like announced that we've kind of like peaked, so it's only down from here, but down in a good way.
Mhm.
Where yeah, I think we're close to the end of it. I know a lot of European countries, like my dad lives in Cyprus, and we're going to treat it as the flu and we're going to go on with our lives. So they stopped with like vaccine mandates and mask
Wow.
mandates, and now it's just up to everyone to live their life and just continue to protect yourself. But now there's just no laws around it.
Yeah. I did see something a little disconcerting that it was, I think it was a Fox News, like Google clickbait today.
Yeah.
Blue states are eliminating the masks because of the falling numbers versus the red states are following the science, where, there was the report that came out that said that self-isolation didn't really do any good. So even this, at least our country's trying to turn it into a political, game and argument, which is troubling to me. But I think all in all, yeah, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
I just think all in all, though, it's a good thing to do. The numbers clearly, at least in New York, when the governor read everything going down, everything was down, 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 down. So why could you keep the mask mandates? And if another variant appears out of the blue, we've had practice, we'll be able to react. That's my point. The more we learn and get used to this, the more we can manage it, live with it, I feel.
Yeah, and it just seems that mysteriously, all these states and all these other countries are saying, "Hey, let's pull back these restrictions." So it can't be coincidence, that they're all doing it. So it must be that they're kind of signaling to the public, okay, we're almost there. And let me go back. We probably all seen when Gavin Newsom was at, I can't remember whatever sporting event it was, with Magic Johnson. He wasn't wearing a mask. The mayor of LA was at somewhere and he wasn't wearing a mask, but it was okay because he said he wasn't breathing when he wasn't wearing a mask. I'm not making that up. That's what he was saying. Stacey
Yes, I
Abrams
saw
in
that.
Georgia was sitting in front of a whole bunch of kindergarteners. They all had masks. She didn't. And I'm not chastising by saying that. But what I am saying is maybe there's more to it. Maybe they're doing it to socialize us with like, okay, we're kind of ready. So it wasn't an oops. It wasn't a, oh, you got me, that the media would make it out to be like, see, you're a hypocrite. We got you. Maybe it's not. Maybe they're pretty smart. Maybe what they were doing is showing we're kind of going there. So by the time they do say, all right, we're out of this, they've already telegraphed it. Now, here's the thing. Here's a big question. Let's think positively. When do you think will be the time? Let's just say the month that we're going to get the all clear. And when I say all clear, I want to be sensitive to people who have COVID, who've lost people for COVID. So I don't want to make light of it, but where it feels that we turn the corner and we could start treating it like, as Mike said, kind of an endemic as opposed to a pandemic, and go back for our lives. Do you have a sense of, not a date, because that's too hard, but like a month that you think we might be there?
I think definitely by summertime, and the summertime will be a true test because that's when a lot of people congregate with summertime activities. So I think we can get through the summer like without the numbers going up. Then by fall, hopefully we'll be in the clear. But yeah, I think because it was around springtime, maybe May of last year, where they started easing restrictions. So I think they'll definitely try to do that because the local governments are going to want people to like go to the beach and partake in outdoor activities that could lend to like the local economy.
I agree. I think the only caveat might be that, again, there may be every time the virus has passed from one living thing to another, it always mutates. So there's always that thing that may come about again, but hopefully we'll be able to treat it and get in front of it. And then as far as the whole globe, once the whole world, however many billion people get vaccinated, I think that would be the assured thing that'll put it, like now smallpox isn't even an afterthought in our vocabulary yet. At one point, it was one of the world's worst, concerns. So I think even closer. I think I think it's already almost becoming an endemic. I'm not sure the exact definition. So I'll venture to say, Christine said the summer, I'll say maybe late spring.
Yeah, I'll go with you on that. I was thinking April, because March, especially in the Northeast and the Northwest, it's still cold and people get colds and all that. So maybe March it's too soon. I would say maybe April, or maybe April where they start kind of say, okay, here's what we're going to do. And how cool would this be? All right, check this out. How cool would it be if July 4th, that was it? Like we make it known, July 4th, we're done. Now, when I say we're done, people are still going to have it. It's not, complete party time, but enough where we could say, you know what, we can kind of move on with our new lives. And what a great day, July 4th. What do you two think?
I definitely think so. And then I just wonder what this will mean for like return to office plans.
I
now
was
with this news coming out, it's like a double-edged sword. You're like, yeah, I think we're out of it. Crap, do I have to return to the office? So then it's like, will this further lead to the Great Resignation?
Oh my God. How crazy is that? Like every time, like, all right, good news. And then there's like, well, but what about this? You're right. So yeah, oh my God. So yeah, it could be that now, how like Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan all like, get back to your office. Now they could say, well, all right, we got the all clear. You have no excuses. So that could, oh boy. And that also could tie in, because we wrote a lot about this for Forbes, where, Google and Facebook and all these other, and Amazon, while remote work was a thing, they were buying and leasing out big chunks of real estate. So,
Yeah. And you've certainly got, like, for instance, in New York City, our mayor had a good point. It's like, we want people back in the office because, again, you all know what business that draws, people buying breakfast, lunch, going out after work, visitors coming in, business visitors staying in hotels and things like that. So I think the cities and the municipalities are going to be on a big push for bring everybody back, anti-remote.
You're probably right, because Mike, you live in New York City, and you were saying there are times it was kind of scary because there weren't a lot of people around. The people who were around were, maybe they weren't there to help carry your bags.
Yes.
So yeah, they may push, because this is what I kind of was thinking too, where Goldman and JP Morgan and some of the banks were, you could tell they were trying to kind of characterize them as mean for telling you to go back. But I wonder if the politicians were in their ear saying, hey, guys and women, if you let everyone stay home, and the streets are deserted and you have drug use out in the open and you have crime and violence, no one's ever going to come back. And it's like Mike, as you were saying, the whole ecosystem of small little restaurants and bars and nail salons, just they'll vanish.
Mhm.
So it's almost like you have to kind of nudge them to go, or at least a certain amount to keep it alive. Otherwise, New York City, Philadelphia, Chicago, LA, San Fran, they'll be like ghost towns.
Yeah.
Yeah. So damn it, we keep having something positive, but then it goes to like something.
I tend to have that effect on people.
So I guess it's still net positive, right? I think all these net positive, but and I guess what we try to do is kind of manage expectations. So it's good, Christine, Mike, you bring it up because this way, okay, it's positive, but then we also have to be prepared. Here's some other outcomes. So at least you can kind of keep your eyes open.
Mm.
All right, cool. So anything else we could add, or what do you think?
And I think another positive thing would be, let's say if you think your company might make you return to the office and you don't want to, now could be a good time to start looking. If things look more positive, then maybe companies will be more likely to hire. So it still could be a good thing.
You know what? That's great advice, because with all this, sometimes with what they say, like with uncertainty comes opportunity. So with, this uncertainty, but hopefully positive uncertainty with the new job, having to have the salary disclosure, and hopefully we're going to be getting out of this whole pandemic. So maybe, dip your toe in the water, see what's going on, check it out, see what's happening. Absolutely. Right. So go into the weekend. We'll focus on the positive. Jobs, when you have a job description, now you'll know. So you don't waste 6 months of your life for nothing, what the range is. And then with all these states, with all these different countries all pulling back on their mandates, it looks like we're closer than ever before. Yeah, we all know things could happen, but let's be positive going to the weekend. So I'll leave you with those two pieces of good news, positivity, and then Chris, Mike, myself, we'll see you on Monday. Thank you. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Same to you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.